Hey heroes, Jonathan here at Night Knowledge. Today we're looking at Endless Legend 2, a turn-based strategy 4X game by one of my favorite developers, Amplitude. Endless Legend 2 is now in early access, and I thought today we can spend some time to look at the 5 starting factions and what they're all about. Yes, we're going to read a lot of it, and you can obviously read it yourself, but I figured it would be better to see it all in one video rather than to scour the developer articles that individually look at the factions. It will also be good to get another point of view and an explanation of how the factions are designed. If you're interested in only certain factions, make sure you use the chapters below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel. Okay, let's jump right in. Okay, so we start off with 5 different factions, and I'm hoping that by time 1.0 releases that we get at least around 8 or 10 different factions. I feel like 5 is far too little, even with the ability to create a custom faction in the future. I like to have, nicely thought out factions. Anyways, so we have the aspects, we have the kin of Sheredyn, we have the last lords, we have the Tahuks, and the Necrophage. So in the top, next to the title or the name of the faction, we have what type of faction they are. So the Necrophage are warmongers, where on the opposite side we have the aspects, which are diplomats. We have the kin of Sheredyn, which are defenders, which I think would appeal to a lot of people. We have the last lords, which are an economic based faction, and finally we have the Tahuks, which is the scientists. So I feel like at least in early access we have a good variety of different types of playstyles, although I'm really once again hoping that there are more and more factions, that we have more choices. I don't want to just have to create custom factions each time. So let's give it a read to see what they're about. So the aspects, their origins lost to the distant past. The aspects are a symbiotic species, part machine, part coral, with physically distinct individuals who find blissful union in the chorus, a mind gestalt where all aspect can psychically come together. Obsessed with preserving the balance of Saheda through empathy and understanding, the aspects' peaceful existence will have been upended by a devastating dieback of their life-enhancing coral fields. Will Saheda ever see the illuminated realm again? So, for us in the middle here, it tells us a lot about the main things about this faction, and on the right hand side it tells us even more what distinguishes them from the other factions. So power of diplomacy, and once again the diplomats. The aspects can use their influence, which is a currency that you earn, to impose advantageous treaties, potentially controlling the outcomes of war or the profits of trade. So I've noticed when I first encountered the aspects, there was a few turns after when we didn't attack each other, and they offered like 6 different treaties all at once. And I could have refused them all, but they were all advantageous to me, but probably more so for them. They have a coral network. Coral networks are grown from coral spores. The resulting coral tiles hasten movement and dust collection, improve diplomacy, and make cities build faster to build. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And then finally, the assimilation. Other peoples are integrated into the aspects chorus at no cost. This special assimilation lets them easily take advantage of others' abilities and military units. So basically what it does is that you make this coral near the minor factions, and this will allow you to pacify them instead of having to do a quest for them, attack them, or pay money. So basically you're using all the bonuses of the coral network, and being able to as a side bonus take advantage of pacifying places as well. So really good. So we have some coral affinities over here. what is important here? So once again, this is a diplomatic type of faction. They are pacifists. It tells us they prioritize diplomacy and peace, frequently proposing treaties and valuing non-aggression above all else. And they're pacifists, reluctant to engage in war. They avoid military alliances and seek swift resolutions when conflict arises. So this tells you how the AI will usually play as, which makes sense. And at the very bottom here, it tells us what two starting technologies this faction starts off with, which is Voices of the Masses, which is a society-based type of technology, which usually brings stability, and then Fencing, which is a defensive type of military technology. So let's take a look if there's anything else. So Warriors of Temperance tells us that the aspect units are typically defensive-minded, agile, and economical type of warriors. We have the Reef Regeneration. So that coral reef units will regenerate, can regenerate on there, because usually coral might be outside of your own region and owned region, so the coral will help heal your units. Coral Foundation. So building a foundation on a tile with coral is significantly cheaper, so it's kind of all the synergy of making use of the coral. Coral Flow. Your armies can move on river or shallow water tiles with coral. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. So you can, so usually rivers or shallow water, you would have to, if it's one tile wide, you can, what's it called? Make a bridge, or you could either with a city make a bridge, like an actual bridge with bridge technology, or with an army, you can make a temporary bridge, which I believe breaks. I'm not too sure when it breaks, but it's only temporary. So, but with the coral technology, you can move through it. So that's pretty cool. Population collection bonuses thresholds are reduced. Let's see. Harmonious tactics. This is an interesting thing for combat. In battle, whenever a unit switches to a defense state, all other allied units gets damage bonus until the end of the round. So this is something where, you know, probably you get your tanks or a tank to go into defense state first, and then all the other units attack afterwards, getting that damage bonus, which is really cool. Cohabitation. Assimilation action costs significantly less, which is great. Forced truce. We can force truces and treaties with other factions. Okay, so that is the aspects. Once again, a diplomatic, treaty-based defensive type of faction. Let's look at the next one, which is the Kin of Sheredyn. An offshoot of the United Empire, the Kin arrived on Saheda decades ago, but dreams of conquest and glory were quickly dashed against the rocks of this unforgiving ocean world. With their original, inspirational leader lost to the wilds, the mantle of leadership has fallen upon General Shaparenko, who dreams that the Kin will one day do more than merely survive. So once again, these guys, or this faction, is a defending type faction, which I think would appeal to a lot of us. A lot of us may not be an offensive type of aggressive, offensive minded type of player. Lots of us like to just build and defend and try not to fight when we have to. So, strength of our zeal. For the Kin, their capital is a citadel. The higher their total fortifications in their capital, the more holy commandments they unlock, and the more chosen they can build. So holy commandments are, it tells us right here, are special actions of this faction. And if you've played the demo, you get to see that there is a district upgrade, a building, that will increase your fortification. And for most other factions, this is only good for military and defense wise, as they increase your defense value. But for the Kin of Sheredyn, you're going to find that that this fortification district building actually ends up doing more. So you'll have a ton more fortifications than your opponents. And by doing so, it gives you special things. Like I believe it can maybe heal your unit, you might restore your movement, and so forth. We have, and then the Chosen is a special type of unit, a bionic warrior. Chosen are the towering bionic warriors of the Kin of Sheredyn, rare and powerful units. Okay, so Holy Commandments, we talked about that. Those are, we unlock abilities within a range of their cities or Chosen, including Divine Service. So it tells us right here, Divine Service, Blessed Earth, Replenish Faith, Forced March, and Wrath of the Sky. So Forced March, remember, was the restoring your movement. I believe Replenish Faith might be the one that heals. I believe Divine Service is a spell that changes your population into a special type of population, kind of a stronger one. And finally, here it is, they're talking about the Chosen. These are powerful giant constructs, which are the bone or backbone to the Kin's military and extend the range of Holy Commandments. Okay, so to be able to use those spells, you kind of want to make sure one of these Chosen are traveling with your heroes so that you can make use of these additional spells. So faction affinities. So let's see, anything special here? This just talks about Stand United. Your units gain a bonus of shield for each allied unit adjacent at the start of the battle round. So once again, focusing on a defending type of military strategy. Martial builders. So military districts provide empire approval, which is stability, and they're gonna, like I said, military districts are for this faction is going to provide a lot of bonuses. As was ordained, the capital has an additional attachable territory bonus, while the costs to build new cities are higher. Okay, so I was playing as the Last Lords, these guys over here, and I noticed that I could not attach a third territory to cities. I can only attach 2, or technically one to a city. So you're going to be able to have larger areas owned by cities, which is cool. It just costs more. Idol's Grace. Each haven grants a bonus of empire approval. So I think a haven is granted to heroes when they hit level 5, and it gives that hero a special bonus, whether it's more health, more damage, and so forth, and provides some story elements. So and a haven is an actual district that you build with the hero in your territory. So what it's saying is that it gives you more empire approval, which is cool. So in terms of how this faction behaves, they're paragons. They are steadfast defenders, deeply valuing military alliances and always standing by their allies in war. And like we've talked about, they're defensive, although reluctant to expand or provoke others. They prioritize secure borders and protective strategies over aggression. And the 2 starting technologies that the Kin of Sheredyn starts off with, which is the workshop, which should be it says economy, but I thought the workshop provides a bonus to industry. No, it's stonework. No, stonework is a military defense. So stonework and workshop for the Kin of Sheredyn. Once again, a defending type of faction. And it looks like we can customize it, so you can pick your color choice. As you can see here, the color's changing the background over there, and then you can pick the faction icon below. So it's interesting. Let's see if we got different symbols for... We do have different symbols. So if you memorize what this looks like here, that definitely does look different compared to these symbols here. So you got kind of a Trojan type of symbol kind of right there. I like it. Cool. Kin of Sheredyn. Now, the Last Lords, an economic-based type of faction. Escaping Auriga before it became an icy tomb, the Last Lords set a destination across the stars for Saheda, a world believed to be endless sun-scorched deserts laden with dust. Upon arrival, Saheda's brutal oceans were a rude awakening for the knights, who still clung to the tatters of their chivalrous code. Most are only engrams awaiting their great suits of armor, but Consul Tayabana hopes not for reanimation, but renaissance. So, what will be a big change if you haven't played the Endless Legends series, but I'm quite sure you've played a 4X type of game where this faction does not require food to grow. Instead, the population consumes dust, which is money in the game. And their units don't heal normally, but you can pay dust to instantly heal them. So I actually like the Last Lords a lot personally because it is one less resource I have to worry about, because there's food, there's industry, there is dust, and there's influence and technically research. So is one less thing, and that means your cities don't naturally grow over time. You use dust to buy population. So if you have a lot of money, you can grow your population real quick. And I also like that after battle, if you're near one of your owned regions or your cities, you can go and instantly heal using money. It's not super cheap, but depending on your playstyle, like your units will always be fully healed much faster than your opponents. So that's Dust is Life, one of the major features of the Last Lords. Now, ruling minor factions is another thing. Once a minor faction is assimilated, the lords can upgrade their villages by building a lord's estate, allowing you to enlist minor faction populations into your city. So by making a building on the minor faction settlement, you can bring, I believe it's 2 population to your city, which increases your growth faster. There are things you can do to turn those population into your own type of population, but it can cause those minor factions to get upset and rebel. So I actually did that in a previous playthrough where I got 2 population from a minor settlement I just pacified, and then I tried to turn them into the minor or Last Lords population, and I did get a population. I changed their population to one of ours, but they got mad because you're basically killing them and turning them into your own, and people don't like that. So the last thing is Primordial Last Lords. Primordials, the most ancient of the Last Lords, are powerful population that boosts the influence and dust production of the Last Lords' inhabitants. Building the Soul Repository creates them. So the Soul Repository is a stability district, and basically what it's saying is that this population provides influence and dust, whereas a normal Last Lord's population will provide 2 dust. This one will provide 1 and 1 of influence, 1 of dust. So it's interesting, and you do that or you get that whenever you create a Soul Repository district. Let's take a look over here. So Knightly Husks. Haunted suits of armor, the Last Lords need no ordinary sustenance, but they do feed on dust. Still trying to live by their chivalric ideals and enamored by land and titles, the lords do their utmost to reframe I don't know about that word, their depravities as their natural rights. Okay, Lords of the Amber Plains, that just talks about chivalric values. So every last drop. So dust tiles provide more dust, which is very important for this faction. Dust healing, we talked about that, how they can only be healed through by paying dust, which can be a double-edged sword when you're like far in enemy territory. You basically want to capture or make camps so that you can go back and heal. Otherwise, there's no real way to heal. Sacrifice for the realm. In cities, so this is something I talked about right over here. This one, ruling minor factions. So basically, this is talking about there's an action you can do on cities to turn citizens, populations set to citizens. You can turn them into Last Lords populations instead, and obviously getting the bonus, the +2 dust population bonus. But once again, that can make them upset. Gifts of the Fallen. So in battle, this is a combat-based bonus or faction affinity. In battle, dying units instantly restore some health to all your adjacent units. Okay, so that's interesting. So you want to get adjacency bonuses. So this is the demeanor of the Last Lords when you find them as opponents. They're typically calm and distant. So calm, their demeanor remains steady over time with slow shifts in attitude regardless of external events. And then distant, they prefer isolation and stability, avoiding most diplomatic pacts while strongly valuing well-defined borders. So this guy might actually be a good neighbor. They might not specifically agree to a lot of your treaties, but if maybe you can get like a non-aggression pact, this will be great because then they won't bother you. You don't have to worry about them trying to invade you. You never know. And the two technologies that the Last Lords start off with is currency to increase the dust, and scavenging, which is a combat or military-based technology. So that's the Last Lords, an economic, dust-centric, money-centric faction. Let's look at the second last faction, the Tahuks, which is a scientist, research-based type of faction. An ancient life form, the Tahuks evolved from giant desert scavenging lizards. Over time, Tahuk society came to be defined by devotion to the sages, godlike figures of infinite wisdom who once walked among them. Though these divinities disappeared long ago, the Tahuks hope for their return. They dedicate themselves to the strange mix of faith and technology that their religious hierarchy, this assembly, promises will restore the sages to Saheda. So let's learn what are the major things or features of this faction. Holy Oculum. The Holy Oculum allows the Tahuk to funnel research into powerful actions like Star's Light, Service of Spirit, Eternal Sunshine, and Esoteric Delegation. So let's see, is the special structure that allows Tahuks to divert science into powerful empire-changing actions. Interesting. Okay, I haven't had a chance to try Tahuks yet, so hopefully we'll have more information. Maybe other creators will have some playthroughs of this faction. Observatories. Built on mountains, observatories grant wide visibility. They also provide food during monsoons and science during other times. They can be upgraded to sacred flames and libraries. Okay, so observatory. So a special structure that can be placed through an army action on a ridge only. It can later be evolved. They produce small economic bonuses. Okay, interesting. So I do remember in a previous playthrough that I was doing, my city was right against a mountain, and it meant that there was a few tiles that I couldn't build on. So for this specific faction, that will actually do well for them because it'll provide, like I said, food during monsoons or science all the other time, and this is a science-based faction. And finally, religion and the called. Religious festivals allow the Tahuk to convert some of their population to fanatics known as the called. The exact effect of these called changes with each festival, and they can be sent out to spread their message to other empire cities. Interesting. Okay. So a way to maybe change the way your population works. Maybe they do different things depending on the festival, which is cool. So let's take a look at their affinities. Blessed by the sages, raised up by the old ones ages past, the gifts bequeathed to the Tahuks from their long gone masters still bestow great boons on their reptilian heirs. So sacred strikers. With more advanced technology learned from the sages, many Tahuk units can strike from a distance. Okay, so a range-based units, or at least faction units. Tahuk Festival. So this is a city action to hold the festival. This is probably how you control how your population acts. Illuminated foes. Attacks apply illuminated status on the target. This status will last until the end of the battle round. If a ranged unit hits a unit with illuminated status, the attack gains an extra 20% damage inflicted. If a melee unit hits a unit with illuminated status, the attacking unit gains extra shield. Oh, so it's kind of like marking a unit. The illuminated status is removed as soon as the unit is hit. Oh, okay. So it's not. It's combo. It's comboing. It's range, mark it, and then melee hits it. So let's see. The illuminated status removed as soon as the unit is hit. So you kind of want a combination of ranged and melee. Would probably be the best combination. Called population. Let's see. Called populations are spawned when Tahuks use certain actions. They are fanatical. Having too many called in a city could cause religious riots. Oh. Who change obsessions every providing mostly weak. Okay. So fanatics are good, but also not. You don't want to have a ton of them. Okay, Oculum's authority. Unlocking the ability to launch holy Oculum actions, diverting science output into some actions will allow you to improve your observatories, territories, or cities. But all these actions will have a negative consequences to watch for. Interesting. Finally, ritual astronomy. Spend dust to build an observatory, which yields science or other benefits. Okay, cool. And can only be built on ridges. Okay. So what is the faction tendencies, social tendencies? So they're inquisitive and fickle. So inquisitive, driven by a thirst for knowledge, this faction eagerly seeks research treaties and intellectual exchange. And they're also fickle though. Their rapidly shifting attitudes makes their alliances unpredictable and short-lived. So possibly not the best type of ally. Yeah. And then the Tahuks start with their two starting technologies is scientific charter, which is a science-based technology, and voices of the masses, which was similar to the aspects over here. So once again, that is a stability-based technology. Okay, so that's the Tahuks, a scientist-based type of faction where they obviously focusing on science. They're focusing on using science to do certain special actions, and for their military, it's kind of like a combo system. So whereas the aspects, I believe, what did we talk about? We're talking about defending. We were talking about defense. So the aspects are about defending. One unit defends while the rest attacks. The Kin of Sheredyn, I believe, is very much about defense. The Last Lords, it's the special thing is about healing, being able to heal and making use of those, what's it called? Making use of those special units, the Chosen. And then the Tahuks is about the combo system. Ranged people mark them basically, and the melees basically triggers it. So the Necrophage is the last faction we'll talk about today. They're the Warmongers. Confined to the depths ages past, the Sheredyn swarm have only just emerged to the surface to establish a beachhead on one of the world's windswept islands. Bitter fighting with the bronze plates have occupied their recent attentions, but they aim to make up for lost time under the command of their prime, one who stalks from afar. But they aim to make, always hostile, always ravenous, the Necrophage are a powerful, menacing presence. So, what is the Necrophage about? So, Matriarch. The Necrophage only has one city versus all the other ones. You have multiple cities. So, the Necrophage has one city, the den of their queen. This city can grow larger than that of other factions, and units can travel quickly between it and other territories by building burrows. So very cool. This is something I did encounter in the demo. I would find some weak necrophages and chase them, and then suddenly another huge army would just pop up like on the totally opposite side of the map. And it's because they had built burrows, these buildings all over the map, and they would go into one burrow and head all the way across the map, and then you're stuck figuring out, do I go back the opposite way, or it's an interesting type of playstyle for the Necrophage. So they have Devour. The Necrophage consumes to grow. They generate a corpse whenever they defeat an enemy in battle that can be used to specialize their units, which they can do anywhere. So that means that all of the other factions, if you want to specialize your units, which you earn the ability to upgrade through specific technology. Usually in the second tier technology, there is a place to specialize, I believe, two of your units, and then you need to get into tier 3 to be able to unlock the stronger tiers. So what's special about the Necrophage is that they, using these corpses, they can specialize their units anywhere. They also generate larva units when they win battles. So I believe your larva units will be probably pretty weak units, but if it survives the battle, then they grow up and they become stronger units. Ever fighting. Every war for the Necrophage is justified. They suffer fewer penalties for prolonged wars than other factions. So obviously, once again, for people that like to fight a lot, this is going to be probably a really good Zergish type, or maybe a long war type of faction. So let's look at the affinities. Hive society. Ever hungry, the Necrophage exists only to serve the queen. Their only city is where she has emerged from the surface, and they will scour the world to collect the resources she needs to grow. So once again, this is one of those double-edged swords. You have one extremely strong city, which might be very hard for you to breach, but if you can then beat that one city, then basically the faction will be done. It'll be faster overall. You just find the hive and just try to punch through. Maybe you can. So that's the thing. You would think that maybe you send a diversionary force somewhere to distract the main army, so that you can have your main army go and attack their capital. The problem is, with all those burrows all over the map, they can probably find it and teleport back home to overwhelm you instead. So unceasing hunger. In battle, your unit's attack deal a hunted status that reduces the defense of the target for each hit taken. Really good. So the more hits, the more damage you're going to be doing. Rapid adaptation. Once again, like we talked about, your units can specialize outside the borders of your empire. Soldiers of the Swarm just talks about being able to have special units. This is something special as well to the Necrophages. Insectoid society. Only your faction population can live and grow in cities. So you will not be. So although you may be able to pacify minor factions, you won't be able to have them in your cities or in your city. So that is a trade-off. So you'll have to figure out what you're going to do with minor factions as the Necrophage. Queen City. Cities can house more population vocations. Okay, cool. And larva creation. After winning a battle, create a larva unit adjacent to the winning city. Okay, cool. Devour the land. So this is an army action where you can transform the army into a harvesting fury, stripping the tile of its resources, and is sent to the capital. And then the larger the army is, the less time it is to strip the tile. So you can't just have one unit's all over the place just stripping it. You technically could, but it probably takes longer, and probably nearby armies are going to come and destroy your single units. But it's a tactic that you could probably do. So what is the faction social tendencies? Ever fighting and belligerent. So ever fighting, they're relentlessly aggressive, always seeking war through any means, and constantly targeting rivals. And then belligerent, with limited diplomacy and no interest in peace, they expand provocatively and reject all friendly relations. Okay, so whenever you encounter the Necrophage, you're probably never going to be able to have peace with them. You just have to be ready to defend against them, basically. And as the Necrophage, you probably, the only way that your opponents will not fight you is if you're not as aggressive. But you probably won't have the non-aggression pact ability, so they're always going to be able to walk right in and attack, or at least attack in skirmishes. The two technologies that the Necrophage starts off with is scavenging, which is a military-based type of technology, and fencing. Actually, that I believe fencing is another one in military, but it provides society benefits. Okay, So those are the 5 factions currently in the early access of Endless Legend 2. Let me know in the comments below whether you got the game and which type of faction appeals to you. Personally, for myself, I'm thinking the Last Lords. Like I said, I like that you don't have to think of one type of resources, which is food, which is really a big thing. You can control your population growth, but you can also easily forget to grow your population. And I like the ability to instantly heal using dust rather than having to fight and wait type of thing. I also like the idea of the Kin of Sheredyn, a defensive-minded faction. But like I stated before at the beginning of this video, I really hope that the Amplitude, the developers of this game, that they make more. And when I say more, we're talking about 8 to 10 factions by time this releases in 1.0, which usually is a minimum of a year. So I think that's a lot of time to add quite a few. As you can see here, there is a silhouette of some type of faction coming soon, but I did not see their roadmap yet on how soon that'll be. Also, let me know if you have a good idea of what that silhouette looks like and what type of faction is. Let me know. I don't know, but I'm really interested. But anyways, thanks so much for joining me today. Check out the rest of my channel for other videos on Endless Legends 2, video games, board games, and other fun things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.